spiritually awakened women. It's an interesting thing because if you're awakened, then you are kind of neutral when you meet people. So you are not you're not judging them, you are not um you kind of you're very neutral in meeting them. And then if say you find someone attractive and so forth, and a little bit more happens, like with the Colombian woman that I had something with here in Spain, you kind of are very open to it, and you're kind of seeing where it goes. You let it lead where it wants to lead. But then as you get to know each other a little bit more, in this case, after the sex, we started to talk a little bit. Not so well. We were on the phone for an hour on the phone, which was fine, and then we had the sex, and then all the things that come after that. It's very interesting because we had 1 hour telephone conversation, which was fantastic, and on that basis, we kind of she went with me in my camper van, and we had sex in my camper van, and then we uh, we started talking in bed, and then after she left, she started to get a little bit weird. Like she suddenly removed her WhatsApp pictures, then she kind of posted other strange things, which seemed like it has to do with some other man or something. I don't know, it was weird. And this is what I recognized dating unawakened women. This is what I recognized, is that in the beginning it's kind of very neutral, and it's almost like normal, and you're saying like, oh, you could theoretically have a relationship with that person, you could theoretically spend more time with them, you could theoretically live together, you could theoretically travel. But then as time goes on, and it doesn't have to be that much time, kind of the unawakened conditioning, the kind of standard conditioning that people have, the kind of standard unawakened conditioning starts to surface more and more. Like they cannot get they cannot get rid of certain thoughts, they cannot get rid of certain emotions, they carry old traumas from the past. They create a story around the old trauma. They're not able to let go. All of these things start to surface more and more and more and more. And each person, each kind of unawakened being has that kind of cluster of problematic conditioning. and and it's just a question of time when you hit it, when you hit that trigger point, for example. So with the Colombian woman, for example, everything seemed to be kind of like nice, and I was like, hey, this could be great friendship plus friends plus kind of relationship. And she agreed to that, so we kind of were on the same page in that sense. But but then she started to get weird about certain things, and I realized that an awakened being would have had the ability to communicate normally, and also not toxic metaframe, and also like whatever friction there is between people in communication or the situation, awakened people can come together and really like look at it from all sides and also from the top, and kind of it resolves itself. But with unawakened people, it's kind of like they start to act in this strange way. So, for example, she asked me about something on WhatsApp. She that for example, she told me this is a very small thing, but it's really indicative of how complicated a relationships with unawakened beings is. She told me she doesn't like my beard, so she wants me to shave completely. To be quite honest, I'd rather have my beard than a woman. So I said, at least, yeah, I'm not gonna shave my beard for no one. Absolutely. Even if it were my dream woman, I'm not gonna shave my beard. Sorry. It's gonna stay 100%. It's so funny because uh Yeah, I'm never gonna shave again complete in my life. I hate it. Anyway, so when I'm very comfortable with this type of beard, extremely comfortable. Um, and comfiness is for me is the most important. So she was not able to tell me why she doesn't like the beard. She would just say, I just don't like it. You know? She wouldn't say because it scratches me. Actually, this scratches less than if you have no beard. Because if you have no beard, you're gonna get these tiny ones and that scratches a lot. So I wasn't sure why she doesn't like it. She wouldn't say. And you have to kind of like really like go after the person and try to figure out what are they really meaning, what are they really saying, what are they trying to communicate, what's really bothering them, all of this stuff. And don't shave the beard for a woman, absolutely not, no, no doubt, I'm not gonna do it. And so every time I've been with an unawakened being or woman together, there was always sooner or later some trigger point which they couldn't get rid of, let go of, and that usually becomes such a conflict then, because they insist on something which should should be no problem to let go. And what did somebody write there? Ah, okay. And uh, and so I'm pretty confident that you can have very superficial relationships as an awakened being with non-awakened beings. So, for example, if I meet a Colombian woman, yes, Mike, you see, I think you can make it super simple. I mean, a lot of people are going to disagree with me on this one, but as a man, I see as I get older, I see everything a little bit different. Like, either you're single and you're very alone and you're like ascetic and you're like, you don't have intimacy, nothing, or, and this is there's basically three possibilities that make sense, I believe. Or you pay for having friendship plus, because then it's it's weighted on the money that you pay, meaning you have a friendship plus with someone who's not, someone who is not a prostitute, it's like a normal person that you're helping that person with some money, so they don't sleep around or something like that. You're just having friendship plus and you're supporting them. That's it's basically like almost like a sugar daddy, sugar babe thing, but it's more than that. It's like friendship. It's a real friendship. Okay, so you have the friendship plus the money, and that's how you can enjoy intimacy and sex in a trusted setting, in a trusted kind of energy. And then the third option is, of course, the awakened relationship with a person that's super awakened. But what I would say to not do, this is what I'm learning, is start something sexual, not serious. Serious, kind of this word, serious, with someone that is not going to be your soul partner, and have them hang around too much, kind of as if you had a relationship. That doesn't work. Because, like I said, there's eventually a trigger point that's going to be a problem. The awakened with non awakened, there's going to be a trigger point, and that's going to not be able to, you're going to not be able to supersede. And the longer you spend time with them, the more likely this surfaces. So it's much better to have someone for intimacy that is safe, that you can trust, but the money because then you can easily disconnect from that. So you're like, we enjoyed each other's time, and now I'm not gonna pay you anymore, and now we split. Because when it's a friendship plus, there's always the idea that it could become a relationship, especially for the woman. If you pay her, then there's never any doubt about that. This is something very interesting I learned, and now it's something interesting also. A lot of women that don't have a partner, and also young women, but also older women, are open to this idea because they have the same needs as you. So they want intimacy, they want something like a friendship, but they want it very simple. Like we see each other once a week, we just have fun, we laugh, whatever. We enjoy intimacy. We have an orgasm, whatever we want, right? Depends on what everyone wants. And then you kind of go your ways again and you do whatever you want during the week. But you're not like think about, oh my God, does she want now a relationship or not? That's not gonna happen if you pay. Because that makes it kind of clear that transaction. And eliminate all headaches, all bullshit. I don't know what you're talking about. Um and the this is what I'm learning as I get older. Because also being 5 years without intimacy, like I've been 5 years without sex and intimacy before I met my ex-girlfriend. That's also not an option. It's not a good option because you're actually limiting your joy. Because from sexuality, from good sexuality, there can be tremendous joy. Like the day when I left that woman, the Colombian woman, I went to the natural park. I was like, we interchanged some, energies, and it was lovely. It was good sex in a way, and I was like, yeah, I was feeling like a king, and it was good, and that energy held on. But if you're like 5 years single, you start to doubt. The thing is, a lot of shit creeps into your mind when you're 5 years without intimacy, and I mean, where do you think all the incels come from? The dangerous incels is because a lot of stuff creeps into your mind, like women are assholes, women don't want me, women life is shit, blah 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 blah. If you had sex once a week with a woman that you find very attractive and get along with and trust, um you're never gonna have these feelings. You're gonna be okay. And and I think that that biological function and that kind of like experience, even when you're awakened, and there is an awakening that has happened, even then I'm like, oh, something is missing if I don't have that. And because it's a biological function, we all need we all need intimacy. And there's also something else, by the way. I think it's complete. I think, and I want to. I know it's gonna sound strange, but in Spain you can do this. In other countries, much more difficult. In some countries, you shouldn't do it. Like you shouldn't do it in France. But I want to go so far that when I see a woman, because I do this online now, and it really works. I do this online, and I tell the woman, I say, this is something absolutely amazing. I'm not joking here for the guys, especially for the guys. I'm not joking when I'm gonna say this. Okay. When I talk to a woman on a dating app and I start to be like talking about me, she talks about herself. It usually ends in the in the fact that we're not compatible. Our lifestyle is not compatible. Our soul plan is not compatible, and so forth. So it usually ends like we don't want to see each other anyway. So kind of like this. But I find her extremely attractive, for example. And she finds me attractive sometimes also. So she's like, of course, if she matched me. So she's like, I find you attractive. I find her attractive. But nothing happens because we're setting it up in the meta frame of a possible relationship. But if you just say as a man, I just want sex, the woman is not going to want to spend time with you. But what I noticed, and this is super interesting, when you're like, hey, when you're super honest and you're like, I find you very attractive. I would love to sometimes have intimacy with you or friendship plus. I would even support you with something financially. So every time we see each other, something like that. Then a lot of women, a tremendous amount of women are suddenly open to this. Because for one, they love money, of course. For the second, they want to have contact with you anyway. But it gives like an extra incentive. And this is something about resource movement, which it gives proof to the woman that you are not homeless. I know it sounds strange, but she really doesn't know who she's meeting. And when a guy's like, hey, I would be ready to give, 100, 200, 300, whatever, anytime we see each other, and she's like, oh, she's earning 1,000 a month, she hates her job, she wants to meet the guy anyway, then she's like, oh, that sounds good. And then she's open to it without the need to immediately push this into a relationship. And it's not, I wouldn't call it, I mean, a very conservative idiot would call this prostitution, but it's not. Because in effect, you're doing exactly the same thing when you go out and you pay the dinner, you pay the taxi, you pay the gas, you drive with your car, you pay the car. You're doing basically exactly the same thing, except here she feels the immediate benefit and you're paying for the stuff anyway also. And Latinas, I don't know how it's in other countries, but Latinas are super open to it. And I would go even so far that a lot of modern women are open to it, even though they're not women that sleep around. And I think that's because, for example, I give you this Colombian woman, right? She is 40 years old. She's exactly the type that I find attractive, but she works 5 to 6 days a week. She's so she has flexible. She has changing hours. So she has like this amount of a window, and she has children, so or one child. So she has this amount of time, like a space, to meet the guy. So how is she gonna have a relationship? She knows 100% that giving the guy 2 hours a week to see each other is not gonna cut it. It's nobody. She will never ever have a relationship again until her daughter is old enough to move out. Then she can have like a weekend relationship or whatever until he like moves in or she moves in with him. But she knows that she wants to spend a good time in those 2 3 hours. If she earns a little bit by doing that or gets something from it, makes even more sense for her instead of wasting it, by not knowing what she's going to do in that week. And she also has a need, and I think this is something people forget a lot of times. Women have also a need for orgasm and intimacy and closeness and touching, just like any other human being, basically. Just like men, women have the same needs, and if it gets met this way, it actually is fantastic for her because she kind of feels, she knows you're gonna have a relationship with her anyway. You're looking for something else. But why would you be 5 years literally totally abstinent, totally ascetic if you don't want to? And I disagree with the idea that you get drunk in a bar, in a club, This is super interesting, people. I know it's a taboo for many people, but I seriously believe this. Um, Most people go into a bar or club, they get drunk, and they fuck some random person that they're never gonna see again, and they don't really feel happy. And this friendship plus supporting her feels totally different. It doesn't feel bad. And for the women it also doesn't feel bad. Whereas the other one is like, shit. And then you're wondering like, why doesn't he call? Why doesn't she call? It's all bullshit. Basically, I would say is do it the way I'm saying until the point where you meet the perfect woman. And then it's super easy to cut with the other one. It's like because it was just friendship plus with, helping out. There was nothing ambivalent in it. Uh and that's something that took me a long time to realize because I was basically. But when you start to realize this, when a lot of time passes in which you haven't enjoyed sex, and then or intimacy, and I'm not talking just about basic sex. I'm talking literally like intimacy, cuddling, being together for a few hours. And I find normal paying for sex with women who are professionals, I find it extremely disgusting. Not because of the money, but because of what she's doing with her body and her energies. Um, so that's kind of like so a lot of time passes, and then you have this experience, for example, like I had with the Colombian woman, and you're like, and it was so good in a sense. It wasn't the best because it was the first time that we met, but and it would have been better the next time, but it was so good that I was like, why did I live 5 years like that? Why was I like ascetic when I could have just paid for it? And even if it were just once a month, like, what is 200 euros once in a month? And be like, wow, fantastic. Um, but you're not searching for sugar babe. You're basically just offering it to women that are in the same situation as you are. And they haven't found the right one, or they just can't because of constraints like time, whatever, children. And for some reason women equate the ability to pay for the meeting, they equate it with well, for some reasons, not just any reason, but they equate it with interest. So they trust that guy more. It's literally like that. It's crazy. Well, it's not crazy. I don't think it's that crazy. And I know for a lot of people this is a taboo subject, but I feel like this makes a lot of sense when you get older and you realize where things are really at. Because I mean, come on, if I don't find the right woman, am I gonna be the next 10 years without intimacy? I mean, come on, let's be real. And I'm not the guy to go in a bar or a club and just pick anyone. I don't want that even. I don't want to go and have a one night stand. I don't want to. I used to do that a couple of times when I was young, but I was using the internet for that, and I wouldn't do it again. Plus, there's another thing, which is also interesting. This is super interesting that when a woman is not totally sure about you, you get like a second and third chance by paying for it because she's like, let's say she's like 50-50. She doesn't know if she wants to see you again for whatever emotional reason. And you're like, well, it's another 200 that I can make or something. Then she's like, okay, let's see him again. And the second time, I know this for myself, I'm much more confident in all ways. Intimacy, in talking, in opening up, and all of this stuff, because otherwise you would only see the other person, if you knew within yourself that you wanted a relationship with them. But women are like that. It's literally like, this is truly, women are like that. They go home from the first date and you'll be like, nah, he's not relationship material, I'm not gonna meet him again. But and they won't maybe even think about it much, like if they don't see it. And if there's like a maybe, they'll be like, I get so many other guys, I don't need to see him again. But if he pays the dinner, if he pays even for the date, if he pays this or that, then the woman is like, yeah, okay, and it can't hurt. And then, and by the way, a lot of relationships start like that, where the woman's like, I don't know, and then they were like, oh, he keeps, insisting, hanging around, and stuff like that. Because a lot of women are like that, and then becomes a great marriage, for example. But in this case, because there is different types of people in how they express themselves and how they show themselves. And I'm a Cancer. I need, for me, comfiness and things that I know. That's where I open up. Like, I'm not gonna open up I'm not an Aquarius where I open up right from the start the way I am. I get better over time, I would say. So it's like the same thing when a woman comes to tantra massage. The first massage is gonna be good, but if she regularly comes to me, it's gonna get incredible. And this is something that you as a Cancer nowadays in this assertive world, you don't get that chance by most women. They just don't give it. They don't give me even. They don't even give you the first chance. And it's not that women are inherently, you know, malevolent or something like that. It's just they they're differently conditioned. They look for the instant kick. Oh my god, that night with the guy, I met him there and it was awesome. Um they're looking for that kind of kick. And you're just not gonna have it that as a Cancer. You're not gonna give them that kick. Um but I'm still not talking about relationship, because a true relationship, an awakened relationship, it doesn't need all of these things so much unless you live in the city. But even then, no, that's not true, because even then, let's say I meet an awakened, being on the street somehow, even then they want to feel that kick, kind of. And I noticed that with yoga teachers, with female yoga teachers, they're not awakened, but you know, I noticed that a lot. They want that instant kick. They want to get really, like, they want to feel it from the guy. They want to feel it, whoa. But when you pay women for whatever, even if you're paying for yoga classes, and she started to see you differently, you get more chances. Even if you're just a student of her yoga class, but you come every week and you pay, she'll start to over time see you differently. It's really like that, because you get more chances that she gets to know you. And she also knows that you're a resource mover, because beggars don't have money for a yoga class or whatever. If you are very tight, you're not gonna spend money on a yoga class. And even though it's not that expensive, but women, listen. There's another thing about resource movement which I want to say. Think about how much it costs to have a good family. I'm not talking just about a family just getting by. I mean a good family. And if you don't earn that much, she will feel it. She knows it by little things. And when you earn that much and you signal it by whatever means, she will feel it. And that's where she opens up. It's literally like that. We're biological beings. Um so it's not about having millions. It's about, having the basic necessities to be able to support a family. By the way, Jordan Peterson says the same thing. So there you go.